Tiffany.
It is so hard being the oldest. Because why would my brother call me right as I hit go live? Why? I'll tell you why. No, I'm not. That's not the focus of this. It's not the focus. So, hi, hello. So, here's the thing. The K through 12 calendar is not the same as the higher education calendar. Duh, right? Right. But here's the thing. Apparently, some people think that it is. Let me explain. So, for the last, this should be the fourth week. Yeah. For the last 4 weeks, I have been talking about out of state admissions and how the time is now. So, for students who will graduate from high school in 2027, they should be preparing to submit their college applications by June 30th, 2026, at the end of their junior year. Now, very specifically, I have been talking about public colleges and universities, HBCUs and non-HBCUs. That's been me talking about this for the last 4 weeks. I have very specifically, though, been talking about out of state admissions in this way for about a decade, but it's been inside of my workshop called How to Reach HILLMAN. So, if you've ever been through a How to Reach HILLMAN workshop, then you've heard me give Miss Tiffany's top 3 tips for applying to your best fit HBCU. You have heard me. If you've been through that workshop, you've heard it. I've been doing that workshop for the last decade. So it's not new. What's new, though, is me talking about it on social media. That part is new. The information is not, though. Right? Okay. Now, I decided to talk about this publicly because honestly, I was having a conversation with one of my good friends, and she was like, "You should do this," and I was like, "All right, don't have a reason not to. It's information that the people need, so let me get it out there." So for the last 4 weeks, I have been talking about this every day. I created a mini guide called the How to Reach HILLMAN Mini Guide, the hidden rules of out-of-state admissions. And it's so interesting because I've shared it. Some people have bought it. Cool. I've had a lot of engagement across social media platforms with the reels and the TikToks that I've created based on that mini guide. Cool. Here's what happened, I think, in the first week. There were people, I'm going to call them colleagues, who one of them was like, I ain't never heard of this. And I'm a higher ed policy researcher. Like, I've never heard of this. Cite your resources or cite your sources. And so that's one. In a few other instances, there were other colleagues, some also in higher ed and or work at the secondary level or work in college access, and they're like, did something change? Why is everything so early? Oh my God. Or, nothing has changed. If anything has changed, it's that they're now requiring standardized test scores again. Or someone saying, but the Common App doesn't open until August 1st. So for the first person who wanted me to cite my sources and who offered that they're a higher ed policy researcher at the PhD level, I gave that person my rationale. Because if you tell me, or since you told me that you are a higher ed policy researcher at the PhD level, I know you know how to look for things. I know you know how to find things. So I gave that person my rationale. Okay. For the other few colleagues, here's the thing. At this point, all of us are older than the Common App. I was not talking about the Common App when I said that out-of-state admission starts now. Students who will graduate from high school next year need to be prepared to submit their applications to their schools that they're interested in attending by June 30th, 2026. I was not talking about the Common App. I'm talking about N2 students who fit that criteria, plus they have an interest in attending a public college or university that is not in their home state, HBCU or non-HBCU. All of us at this point, those of us who serve the youth, we are all older than the Common App. So why are we defaulting to the Common App? And what and when and how the Common App says we need to handle admissions. Why are we doing that? Did you ever ask that question? Lest we forget, the Common App is still a business, babe. And that business is still separate from the business of higher ed. The calendar that is still running simultaneously they're not in alignment. And so if you are only looking at the Common App, or if you are only looking at the Black College Common App, you are going to miss. You're going to miss it. Because the truth of the matter, the fact of the matter is, there are some institutions that still have their undergraduate institutional application. Some of those institutions still have that application open. And that application in particular is one that the institution obviously controls, has the most control over. And so, if or since those applications, depending on the institution that we're talking about, if a way to apply to an institution, if that pathway is open and available, why would you not take it? Why would you not take it? The only people that truly benefit, or entity that benefits from delaying, is the Common App. The student does not benefit from waiting. And the problem is they do not know that they are even waiting when they don't have to wait. Yeah. And so I explain this to my colleagues. I explained it. They didn't say anything. Cool. And that's fine. Don't. But don't act like I didn't just teach you something that you can use readily, that you can use right away. Information that you can use. Things you should know. Now, I decided keep going. Because at the end of the day, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about because I've worked in higher ed for the last 8 years. I've worked in admissions. I've been the person on the other side, evaluating applications, interviewing students, granting freshman scholarships. I've seen what the back end of the house looks like. I'm also someone who grew up in a state that does not have traditional 4-year HBCUs. Now, I went to a private HBCU for undergrad. So I did not have that type of highly selective struggle, right? In terms of admissions. Howard is Howard. There are students who are interested in attending North Carolina A&T, attending Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. Insert any other public HBCU. There are students who are interested in attending the University of Maryland, College Park. that are interested in attending the University of Virginia, UCLA, or any of the colleges in California. University of Texas. As out-of-state students. Those students are going to hit a barrier. That barrier is a law, is a policy that limits the amount of out-of-state students. There is a limit. And public colleges and universities do not challenge the limit. They can't, not without negatively impacting their bottom line. And so that means that if you know and understand that, then you have to move a little differently, because it is more difficult. It's more difficult for an out-of-state student to be admitted to a public college or university that's not in their home state. That's not an opinion. It's a fact. And so I have been talking about this for the last decade. Before the last 4 weeks, I have been talking about this on the timeline. And it's been interesting because people act like I'm not telling the truth. People act like my work history is not public. People act like I don't teach about these things. Like I don't explain it all. People would rather trust the Common App, a business run by a ghost. You don't know that person, but you know me. I'm accessible here in the flesh, live and live in color. You got to think about how and why you're being told, funneled through a particular experience, and who ultimately benefits from that. To do that, you would have to understand the system. I'm telling you, and I have told you, if a student is graduating from high school in 2027 and they want to attend an HBCU that is not in their home state, or non-HBCU that is not in their home state, they need to be preparing to apply right now. Right now. By June 30th, 2026. Now, There were people who were like, I've never heard of this. Well, you wouldn't. Have you ever worked in higher ed? On the staff side of things, higher ed is a business. It's open. Even when students are not in class, it's open. Over the summer, the people are working. You know who doesn't necessarily work over the summer? K-12 administrators. And that's fine. I'm not saying y'all should not have your break. But what I am saying is before you out of office, before you do that, seriously, set your students up for success. That's all. And by success, I mean, if you saw this, you saw any TikTok that I did, any reel that I did, any post that I did, and you're like, I have never heard of this. Never heard of this. And you decided not to engage or decided, I'll just wait till August. Okay. Okay. That doesn't help students. Does not help at all. And so originally, I was just going to wait. I was going to wait just to see what happens, even though I know what happens, right? But one of my friends, same friend, was like, you know, the youth don't deserve that. Keep going. You are helping someone. Keep going. I said, you know what? Okay. You're right. You're right. I'll keep going. Okay. So last night, or yesterday afternoon, or actually around this time, I was minding my Black-owned business when I got a DM. And it was from a student who is a rising senior back at home in Detroit. Attends one of Detroit's biggest, quote, best high schools. I don't have a dog in that fight. Well, shoot, I might. I am a King Crusader, but you know, okay. And she attended one of my How to Reach HILLMAN workshops. And so she says, hey, I attend, and I also participated in your How to Reach HILLMAN workshop, and it was very helpful to me and my parents. And, you know, I was wondering if you would be willing to read my college essay. And I said, I'm glad you found it helpful. And I'm glad you remembered enough to hit me up. Like, I'm happy to help. But I have a few questions. And so I'm like, have you seen my reels? And she's like, yeah, I've seen them. Actually, I went to my school counselor and I was asking her, like, how do I get started? I need to do this, that, and the other. Let's go. And so then she says, but my school counselor said that I don't have anything to worry about right now, and it can just wait until my senior year. And I just feel like I don't like that. It doesn't sit well with me. I should be doing something. So I'm nodding because, right. This student in particular knows differently and knows better because she's been through how to reach HILLMAN. But when she went to her school counselor for support, her school counselor said, oh, you could wait. It could wait. I asked this student what schools is she interested in applying to. She said Howard, North Carolina A&T, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, Norfolk State, Clark Atlanta University, and the University of Michigan. At least 3 schools on her college application list are out of state and public and have limitations on out-of-state students. She cannot afford to wait until senior year. Senior year when? Okay. And so what I had already experienced a few weeks ago with my colleagues, a student brought to me yesterday. Are we all in this together or not? Are we all centering the youth or not? Here is a student who presumably has great grades, has great test scores, because she goes to a school that you have to test into and keep your grades up. And she's a student that takes initiative, will seek answers, seek support. And she was also a student who was turned away because her counselor said, oh, it's not time yet. You can wait until senior year. When the reality is senior year is now. Senior year is now. And so I told this student, and I was like, give me 5 minutes. Because I had to really think about what I was going to say and how I was going to say it, because that is incredibly frustrating. If there is something that you can't do for yourself because it's somebody else's responsibility, and they say, oh, nah, you can wait, and it forces you to wait, when you know waiting is a problem, that's wild. So I had to get my mind right. So I said to her, this is exactly why I released the mini guide. Because there are students who do not know what you know. There are students who depend on their school counselor or college advisor to just know and to direct them. But what happens when your school counselor, your college advisor only knows what they know? but you know something else, something different, something more. And instead of engaging with what you know and how you know it, they tell you you have to wait. I don't believe in that. I do not believe in that. So I told her that I will, because this is not a problem that is unique to her. This is a problem, a circumstance, a systemic barrier for students who live in a state that does not have HBCUs, that does not have public HBCUs. It's a problem for students who live in a state, but the college or university that they want to attend is in another state. It's a problem for everybody. And it's a problem for everybody because the reality is the way these college access organizations, the way these college access networks are designed to work, they're designed to work around and for capitalism, the business needs of a given state, right? They're designed to keep students where they are. So it makes sense that your school counselor and or your college advisor doesn't know that there is a different timeline for out-of-state admissions when your college access agenda, programming, policies all revolve around in-state institutions, but you know that you don't want to stay in state. It makes sense. Still a barrier. And still one that is overwhelming, can be overwhelming. And so with all that in mind, I said, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I will host a pop-up workshop. A pop-up workshop where I will explain out-of-state admissions page by page of the mini guide. It's only 6 pages. Very thorough and only 6 pages. I will explain how all of this works. That's what I'll do. I said I'll even evaluate anybody's college application list. If they submit it, when they register, I'll evaluate it and I'll give them feedback. I will after the pop-up workshop. Because if you created your college application list without understanding how out-of-state admissions works, then you're going to have to go back to the lab. There are things that you're going to have to change. You're going to have to change those things. And so I said to her, if you're willing to help me get the word out about this, because again, you know more and you know differently because you've been through my full How to Reach HILLMAN workshop. I will I will read your college essay and give you feedback. And I meant that. So the entire reason why I decided to host this pop-up workshop for out-of-state admissions is because that student DM'd me and asked for help and told me, yeah, I saw your reels. Yeah, I went to my school counselor to get the process going. But she told me, I just gotta wait. So we have this workshop. I'm hosting this workshop in that student's honor. Because I know that student is not the only one out there who was told they can just wait or they need to wait. I know that that student was not the only one. And so the workshop is on Saturday. This Saturday actually happens to be open. So like we will be going. The cost of admission to the workshop, your ticket to the workshop, is to buy the guide. Buy the guide, you'll get in the workshop. So I will pin the registration for the pop-up workshop in the comments somewhere. And this is separate. This is separate because, like I said, I am reviewing if a student submits their college application list when they complete the registration form, I will review it and give them feedback. So that's also what the form is for. Give me your list. Okay. So I'm going to put that in the comments as a pinned comment somewhere. Yeah, when I stop streaming, I will do that. I think that's all I have to say today. Well, not today, but about this. Yep. Thus concludes my live. So I got a blast. Yeah, stay tuned.